We've made it a habit here on the channel of covering print and play roll and write games, especially if they are only basically one sheet, maybe two, because we like dice, we like roll and writes. These are simple to grab and print up. Well, today is no different, as we are going to be looking at Jujuman, one that is coming to crowdfunding Kickstarter. There will be a link down below to that campaign so you can check it out. But I am going to check it out for you and let you know what I think about it after I show you how it plays. Let's go over really quick on how to play Jujuman. So first thing you can do is you can write your name up here. So let me go ahead and do that. You are going to want to have 3 dice. A black one, I'm using like a smoke gray, a green one, and a red one. You are then going to look and you're going to place a number 1 on one of the outside empty hexes, so you can't put it on where there already is a little ingredient. So we're going to go ahead and just put our 1 right here. Like so. You are then ready to begin. So in Jujuman, you are going to be rolling dice. In the solo version, you are going to play over 36 rounds. In the multiplayer, you all will be using the same dice, and you're going to go until one of 2 things happens. One is someone has crossed off the last of their voodoo dolls, or someone has filled in 1 shelf of each color. You have your reds, your blacks, and you have your 1 green in the middle. So when a turn starts, one person is going to roll the 3 dice. You are going to look at the 3 dice, and you are going to then first, you must fill in a potion. You can do that in one of 3 different ways. You can use 1 die by itself. In this instance, if I did this 3 in the green die, that would have to go on the green shelf. If you use the red die by itself in the red shelf, and then the same thing for the black, you'd use it in the black shelf. The next option you can have is you can use 2 dice, adding or subtracting them, and then that value will go on the die you did not use. So if I use the black and green die together, I would put it on the red shelf, and these 2 together could either be 7 or 1. Alternatively, you can also have a 0, which is, in this instance, you have the 3 minus 3 is 0, and put that on the shelf in the black. When you fill in your potion bottles, you can fill in any one in the row based on the color of the die. However, going from left to right, the numbers must stay ascending. Zeros and blank spaces do not count on there, so you could have a 5 and a 7 and put a 0 there, etc. Another rule is that it's considered the Sudoku rule. You cannot have the same number in the same row or the same column. So again, had I put a 2 right here, I would not be able to put a 2 here, 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 or anywhere else in this row. The third option you have when using the dice is you can use all 3 dice and a combination of adding and subtracting, and then you can put it on any of the shelves. So that 2 that I just did would be able to do here, because you could go 4 plus 3 is 7, 7 minus 5 is 2. You can put it on any of the shelves, and I had chosen to put it on the red. After that, you have the option of moving on the map from where you last were. Now, if you use only 1 or 2 dice, you are going to move in a straight line the number on one of the unused die. So had I only used the 4, I could move 5 or 3. Had I used these 2, I'd move 5. If, however, you use all 3 dice, you can then move 1 space. So in this instance, let's go ahead and say I had the 4 left. You're then going to look at your map, and you're going to go 1, 2, 3. When you get to the 4th one, it's easy to put a number. That way you know where you left off. So I've moved 1, 2, 3, 4. And then if you cross through or land on one of these ingredients, you're going to mark them off. So I have a worm, and I have a feather. Like so. When you move, you are not allowed to go in reverse on your next movement. So if next time I have this 3, I cannot go backwards and go 1, 2, 3. Also worth noting, you can only collect an ingredient once. So had I gone over these spots again, I would not be able to get that worm. I need to work my way out and grab them from amongst the map. Now, speaking of your ingredient track right here, as I said, as you move along, you are going to be crossing off spots. When you fulfill a column and they have a spot up here, a little reward, you're going to do that reward. All of them have you take an additional turn immediately, utilizing the dice that have been previously rolled. So in this instance, I would be taking another turn with this 3, 4, and 5. However, with this one here specifically, I can now add one value to one of these dice. Going across, this next symbol is I can re-roll up to 3 of the dice. The next one is I can multiply one of the dice by 2. At this point, I will note, when you write a number up in your potions, you can never write a number higher than 18. Even if through multiplication and other ways of manipulating the dice, you would get higher than 18. 18 is the max. This next one is you're able to flip a die. A 1 goes to 5, or a 1 goes to 6, 2 goes to 4. This one here allows you to flip a die. The dice sides always add up to a 7, so a 1 to 6, a 2 to 5, and a 3 to 4, or vice versa. This next one is you can subtract one from the die. This one here is you can multiply 2 dice together. Reroll, adding 6, timesing by 3, etc. They are all iterations on what is previously done. You'll then notice that there are these lightning bolts as well. When you cross off a lightning bolt, you will then cross off another ingredient of whatever you have lowest in. If there's a tie, you get to choose. So say I had already grabbed a couple of mushrooms and I go to do this leaf. At that point, I will then fill in the worm. So again, you are going to keep doing this, rolling the dice, filling in potion bottles, and filling in your map until one of those 2 end games is triggered, again crossing off the last voodoo doll, which this happens when you are not able to place a number. You're going to start from here and cross off this way, or someone has filled 1 shelf of each color. When that happens, you are going to calculate your score. Let me grab a completed sheet to give you an idea of how that works. So here we have a completed sheet. You will see that the end game was triggered by a black row filled, a green row filled, and a red row filled. Again, no numbers are repeating except for zeros. Zeros do break all the rules. And there are none in these columns either. At that point, what you are going to do is you're going to be filling out your bottles first. You are going to be looking at each row. If the row is complete, you are going to be taking the value in the rightmost bottle. Like that. If it is not complete, you are going to count how many bottles have numbers on them, and that is what you're going to score. So that is why 1, 2, 3, 4. This one's 4. This is 18. This is 17. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 there. And then 18 on the bottom row. You're going to total those up. Then you're going to times it by where you had the Jujuman from. That is going to be down here underneath your ingredients. As you can see, here's the 1, the 2, the 3. I didn't get to the 4 or the 5. So you're going to add those up, multiply it by that number, and that's going to give you a subtotal. Next, you are going to be looking at these bottles. These are the special potions. You're going to add up the 3 numbers in there. They have to have values in them, otherwise the total for that special bottle is 0. So in this instance, I had 2 plus 7 plus 17, which gave me 26. But had this 2 not been there, like so, even though I have 7 and 17 for 24, there is nothing there, so I would score 0 points. Alternatively, if a 0 had been here, I would do 0 plus 7 is 7 plus 17 is 24. So as long as a 0 is in there, you can still add them up together to get the points. However, if the value is blank, then you do not score any points for that potion. You are going to do that for the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different bottles there. You are going to score for your leftmost uncrossed off voodoo doll. So in this instance, 30. It goes 30, 22, 15, 10, and 5. And then if you have managed to write the number 9 5 times on your sheet, you are going to get 45 points. You are going to total all those up to get your final total right up there. Most points is the winner. In the solo version, there is a table that, again, you play over 36 rounds and then see what your score is at that point. But that is the basics of how to play Jujuman. Let's go ahead and get into my thoughts on this game. So there you go. That is an overview of how Jujuman plays. So let me get into some of my thoughts on this one. First off, I am going to say this one is definitely more thinky and crunchy and brain burning than I initially thought reading the rules. The rules seemed pretty simple. Roll 3 dice, fill in a potion bottle, move on a map. Easy peasy. Until you actually play it, and then you start seeing, where does that decision space come from? Actually trying to manage your numbers and your bottles, especially with that Sudoku rule of not being able to put them in the same row or column. So trying to manage that first set where, it's got to be like, you want to start like in the 1 to 4 range, but you can't just put 1 in the first ones and 2 in the second ones and 3 in the third ones because those numbers are going to overlap. So trying to figure out exactly how you want to do it. Also, each shelf has 12 bottles. You can write the numbers from 0 to 18. So you're going to have to try and manage, you don't want to put a 9 too early, otherwise you might have to try and do a bunch of zeros. So trying to be able to leave yourself a lot of maneuverability in those rows, in all of them, and that is what is extremely difficult in this one. Because as I said, you can't just put them all in the same column because that breaks the rules. Also with the whole writing 5 nines gets you 45 points. Well, that's a fairly large set of points. So you want to try and manage, well, how can I get all 9s or 9 in each row? Because you can't, again, put them on top of each other, so you got to kind of have them on a cascading row. So where do you have that cascading row start and finish to be able to maximize your points and how you want to do the shelves? The fact that more than likely you're only going to fill 1 shelf of each color unless you really elongate the game and try and fill up all 5 shelves by filling your 2 blacks and your 2 reds before you finish up your green. But in hoping your opponent's not trying to do the same thing, the opponent might end it. So, trying to figure out, all right, what rows do I want to focus on? Let's make sure I get my numbers there. And then that way you kind of have some push-off rows that you don't have to be as mitigating with exactly where you put those numbers because you're not going to fill it. So if you want to put an 18 early, go ahead because it's not going to affect the other rows. It gets one of the high numbers out of being able to put it at the end of the rows to score. So those just tough decisions. And then if that wasn't enough, you're going to be using a die down in your map. So you're going to want to make sure that as you're adding, subtracting, doing all those numbers, that the die you leave is going to help you on your map. Because your map is not just a brush off a die. Let's just, do whatever happens on the map happens on the map. No, because you need to be pushing up those ingredients because A, they give you extra turns that allow you to mitigate those dice. And that can help you get some of those larger numbers for the end or lower numbers for the beginning, depending on which way you go with it. Then there is the Jujuman symbols that multiply how much your bottles are worth. You definitely can't ignore that. Because if each bottle is only worth what's written on there, you're going to fall behind from your opponent. So there's that whole other map aspect that adds to all of that thought you have to put into the game. So then it's almost like balancing 2 different puzzles with 2 different thought processes. You have the puzzling of the number, Sudoku, the adding, subtracting aspect of the top, making sure to manage those numbers. But then you have the whole planning ahead, plot movement. Where do you want to get lined up for the next turn? Making sure you end up somewhere good while hopefully getting stuff that turn to maneuver that will make you get more potion bottles and be better up there. Also, for some reason, you don't think at the beginning, thinking, oh, this might be a quick game. No, you have to fill in a minimum of 36 bottles. Even with extra turns, you're probably going to be doing a minimum of 25 to 28 turns at a bare minimum, and that's if everything works out well. You're probably going to be in that 30 to 35 range. So it's going to last longer than you initially think looking at the map, because the map doesn't necessarily look like a lot's there, oh, I can easily get around that map. Not really, because you have to kind of maybe do a couple moves here to line yourself up to go through the ingredients. They're laid out really well to where, yes, you can have some nice movements, but you're also going to have movements that's going to hinder you, or you're going to have to do a couple different movements to be able to get what you need. That all being said, the issue we had with this one was Bri had a lot of AP with this one. There was a lot of analysis that she was trying to do, trying to figure out exactly where to go on the map, and that's going to dictate how she does the bottles and then what number bottle can she do. So if you are a person who struggles making those decisions, or you play with someone who struggles with making those decisions, this is going to be an issue for them. She was good at trying to figure out one part and then not the other, or that part and not the other. So for her, having both parts is kind of what overwhelmed all of the analysis she did on the game. But I still really like this, and this I can see being a fantastic solo option where you're not having to worry about that other player, and you can kind of go at your own pace and do what you want. And then you're playing 36 turns as opposed to someone rushing the end on you as you're trying to maximize something that you're trying to do. So I think the solo one is where this is going to really shine and excel for me, where I can play it at my own pace, play it at my own speed, especially those turns where you unlock certain dice or certain abilities, be able to re-roll the dice, being able to do that without having to worry about her needing the dice or having to grab a second set of dice or something to that effect. It's all kind of my self-contained little thing. And that's the last thing I kind of want to touch on, is that was one of the really cool design elements I saw in this game, is when you take an extra turn with the dice out there, that is a good way to speed up play to where not everyone's having to grab the dice and re-roll them and take a whole other turn and trying to figure out who does what. No, you're using those dice. But instead of you then having to try and figure out how to manage those dice again, especially if it was kind of difficult for you the first time, no. Now you can maneuver those dice. So now you can get a couple of different numbers. You can increase it by one. You can multiply two of them together. You can subtract from them. Just a way that they use that to manage and mitigate them so that it speeds up the gameplay of not everyone's going to have to re-roll the dice and take their extra turn while people are waiting on the new dice to do this, but still making it where it doesn't feel repetitive. All right, well, now I'm just using the same dice. So do I really want to grab that thing because I don't like these dice? Well, no. I want to grab those things because now if I can add 2 to this, I'm going to be able to put it in the next spot. Stuff like that. That was one of the elements that really stood out to me that shined. So again, that is what I think of Jujuman and kind of who I think it is and isn't for. Again, if you love these weird, crazy puzzles, that especially a dual puzzle that have to play off of each other, this is for you. If you suffer from extreme analysis paralysis and the puzzles really slow you down, this is going to be a hindrance. I'm going to just be upfront about that. But if this does sound like the game for you, again, there is a link down below to where you can go ahead and check out that campaign. If it's live, back it. Grab yourself a print and play roll and write, print it up, laminate it like I did, and you are set to go on Jujuman. But I'll also get you to head down below and hit like, subscribe, comment, share, and ring the bell to be alerted as we do more videos. As I said, we've been doing a lot of print and play roll and writes. So if that is your theme, then maybe keep an eye on this channel. Another way you can help these videos keep coming out is by supporting the channel. There are numerous ways of doing that. One of the ways is by joining the channel with a membership. And when you do that, you can get exclusive perks such as early access to videos, voting on polls for future things we cover, or various other small videos like that. In addition to that, there is also a Patreon we have going, or a Ko-fi where you can do a one-time donation, again, to help support the channel and keep these videos coming. So, until next time, I hope I don't get bad juju.